It's the Scotty Myers Show.
Hey, welcome to this week's edition of the show. I'm your host, Scotty Myers. Hopefully you're having a fantastic week so far. And I am having a really great week. I'm not going to lie to you. Even though vacation is over, I'm still basking in the glow of running my first half marathon ever. Now, if you missed my little YouTube video, I did a little motivational run recap. You can check that out, the Scotty Myers Show channel on YouTube. But I'm going to talk a little bit about that half marathon here. It was the first time I've ever ran that distance. And to do it at Disney was everything that I had hoped for when I signed up for it. And part of the reason that I did the Disney half marathon was because I thought in my head that, you know, it's a long distance. I know people run full marathons longer, but I thought, you know, like the sights and sounds of Disney would help push me through. And it really did. Running through Magic Kingdom, like running through Cinderella's castle was kind of an adrenaline rush, and running around Epcot and all that kind of stuff. Very, very cool. The parts out on the actual roads were a little rough. And that's where I don't want to say I got injured because I'm okay, but that's definitely where the incident happened that slowed me down for, let's say, the last 5 or 6K. And that was, this guy just stopped in front of me. And I had to dance around him, and the way I landed, my calf muscles just seized right up. So I had to stretch them out, and they were really painful for the last little while. I was so mad at that guy, though. So mad. They give you a runner's etiquette, and they say, like, if you're going to slow down or anything, raise your hand and move to the right. And this guy just stopped in the middle of the road. It was, you know, just a dumb bonehead move that could have hurt somebody. I mean, it hurt me, you know, in the way that my calves seized up and I had cramping the rest of the way, but it could have seriously hurt somebody. It's just not a smart thing to do. But, you know, that was my only complaint. And I will say, despite the injury, I was running when I crossed the finish line. And I'm very proud of that. I didn't stop running. I just had to run shorter kind of intervals because I'd run as much as my calves could take, and then I'd pull up and walk for a little bit. And they couldn't take much at times. But really, it's one of these rare things. I had a moment in therapy years ago where my psychiatrist had said to me, you need to take time when you accomplish something to, you know, enjoy the accomplishment. And I was never good at doing that, and I'm doing that with this, and I'm not going to lie, it feels great. It really, really does. So as I said in the YouTube video, I would highly recommend you to challenge yourself to do something. It doesn't have to be physical. You know, it doesn't have to be running a half marathon or running a 10K or running at all or even going to the gym. It doesn't have to be anything like that. Pick something that you've always wanted to try to accomplish. Could be a very small thing like, you know what, I'm going to read a book this month, a whole book, cover to cover in the month. It can be something as simple as that, and do it. And then when you accomplish that goal, don't just brush it aside, even if it may be trivial to someone else. It wasn't trivial to you. And that's all that matters. Like me running my first half marathon, to everybody the next day that was running a full marathon, or some of the people that were running every race during the marathon weekend, the 5K, the 10K, the half, the full, a half marathon is nothing to them. Might have been kind of trivial to them. Not to me. And that's the thing. So find that challenge, complete it, make the commitment to yourself that you're going to see it through, and you'll love the feeling at the end, and it'll make you ready for your next challenge. I am ready for my next half marathon. It's not going to be right now. I wish I could get back down to Disney in April because they have a Star Wars half marathon, which I would love to do, but I don't think I can financially get myself back down there that quickly. Otherwise, I would do it. But yeah, absolutely fantastic time. My next challenge is I want to run one where I don't cramp up. That's my next goal. And if I don't cramp up, then I'll be a little faster. But I wasn't really worried about time with this one. I'm not going to be super worried about it next time. I'm more going to be concerned about how I feel when I cross the finish line next time. So after I did the half marathon on Saturday, I went right into the parks that day at Disney. And the parks are great. There's a lot of changes coming. Like if you listen to the show, you know I love Disney World. It's kind of my place where I go to escape. And there's so much change happening there right now that it's a mix of frustration because there's a lot of construction going on. And you're like, oh, that's not as pretty as it normally is. And then also just excitement and anticipation of what it's going to be when they finally finish all these massive projects. So, kind of a mix there. But I will say one project that they recently finished is the second Star Wars ride in Galaxy's Edge called Rise of the Resistance. And I have to tell you, if you are headed to Disney, whether it's Disney World or Disneyland, because it just opened in Disneyland, if you're headed in either of those places anytime soon, put Rise of the Resistance right at the top of your must-do. Because it's not a ride. Calling it a ride is really shortchanging it. It really downplays it. It's an experience. Like, it really is. It's a total, sensory experience that mixes fantasy with reality, live action with animatronics. You get really sucked into the world that they create there. The Imagineers with Rise of the Resistance have, I would say, outdone themselves 1,000 times over. It's going to be hard for me to see where they go from here, but I can't say enough great things about Rise of the Resistance. I really can't. So if you are headed anytime, make sure you go and check out Rise of the Resistance. Now, something else that I was doing on this trip was taking my wife to see Celine Dion. I know, every guy out there just kind of clowned me. Now, I'm going to tell you, the show was not terrible, okay? She has an amazing voice. Whether you like her music or not, she's one of the best singers on the planet, so she sounded great. Still, not the type of music that I'm into, but at no point during the show was I going like, when's this fucking thing going to end? I never felt like that. It was a pretty good show, and my wife enjoyed it wholeheartedly. And she was pointing out to me when we were walking in the line, going, look, you're not the only guy here tonight. And I went, yeah, it's a bunch of guys on dates trying to get laid. And she was like, look, a lot of these people are older. They're married. And I was like, well, then they're just trying to get anal. These are the things we do as guys when we're trying to accomplish things. We'll sit through a 2-hour Celine Dion show if there's a little fun afterwards, The one thing I will say about the show that shocked me beyond belief was I've been to a shit ton of rock shows, okay? And I've dealt with and seen many a drunken idiot at a rock concert. Like if you're at a Guns N' Roses concert, there's a lot of drunken idiots there. I did not expect to see a drunken idiot female at a Celine Dion concert, but that's what happened, and it was just behind us. Apparently, there was this lady behind us who was hammered beyond belief, like staggeringly drunk. And at one point, I guess she was standing up, because I was looking forward, and then I just heard it behind me before I turned around. And she starts going on about, like, I paid my money, and I'll stand the fuck up if I want. Fuck you, Celine Dion's awesome. Woo, we love you, Queen. Fuck you, I'm going to stand if I want. And I was like, this is a Celine Dion show. That's the type of stuff, like I say, you hear at a rock concert, not Celine Dion. It was very surprising. I think she got tossed out about halfway through the show. Something else you don't think is going to happen. People getting ejected from a Celine Dion concert. But it happened. So that kind of made my night as well, right? Like, definitely very, very, very cool to see that at a Celine Dion concert. It was Florida. Keep that in mind. Something else that happened on the trip that I wanted to share with you, because this was one of those moments where I shouldn't have laughed out loud, but I couldn't help myself. And my wife was looking at me going, stop it. I feel so bad for that woman. And I was like, I can't help it. This is easily one of the top 3 funniest things I've ever seen in my life. So I went to a place called Big Cat Rescue. If you've never heard of Big Cat Rescue, they rescue big cats. And by big cats, I mean tigers, mountain lions, those types of things that either people have as pets. Like there's a lion there that a crack dealer owned as a pet. Sometimes it's just roadside zoos that don't treat the animals very well, and they rescue them from there. There's a million and one different ways that animals end up at Big Cat Rescue, unfortunately. And so we're doing the tour, and we're seeing all these beautiful, beautiful animals. And the tour guide says to us, we're about to come up on these 3 tigers that we recently got in. 2 of them don't really like people that much. So if we do see them, we're just going to keep kind of moving by their cage. We don't want to cause them anxiety. But one of them, named Simba, absolutely loves people. And so they were like, we'll definitely spend some time with Simba. And we walking towards Simba's cage, and Simba saw us coming, and he started like rubbing up against the cage, being all cute, like your house cat would be, you know? And so we're looking at Simba, and Simba's doing his thing and being all cute. And then you know how a cat can spray? Well, Simba kind of started shaking his butt a little bit, and this happened in slow motion because it probably took all of 3 seconds, but it felt like 3 minutes. I saw him shaking his butt a little bit, and I just kind of moved to the side with my wife. One lady did not notice this, and Simba sprayed all over her face. Like, Simba bukkakied all over this woman. It was like she was in an adult film, and the money shot happened. And I lost it. I just started laughing. And like I said, my wife was like, Scott, stop. You should feel bad for that woman. I was like, I do, but it's also fucking hilarious. And the tour guide played it off like it was nothing. Tour guide was such a pro. It was just like, oh, that just means Simba likes you. Yeah, that's what it was. He liked you enough to blast you one right in the face. Perfect shot by Simba. I wish I had videotaped it, because if I did, I'd be making the royalties off the YouTube video right now. But if you are ever in Florida, don't let that scare you off. Go see Big Cat Rescue. They are totally a non-profit. Every dollar they take in goes back to the cats. They're doing great work. If you're an animal lover, it's worth checking them out and helping them out. So a story that's been getting a lot of press lately is what happened with the Houston Astros. We cover sports here every now and then, but this is a big deal. The Houston Astros were basically caught stealing signs during their World Series run, World Championship when they won. And now managers and a former player have all been given year-long suspensions, but that means managers have been fired by their teams, basically, because they need managers. We're a month away from spring training, and there's 3 teams that need a manager, and the Astros also need a general manager, which is unheard of. And I heard a lot of people today talking about whether or not this is good for baseball, or if, what's worse, this or the steroid era. I'm going to make the argument that in a way this is good for baseball, because here we are in the midst of the NFL playoffs, and the primary topic is baseball. Baseball usually doesn't get any press until halfway through the season, really. Unless something outrageous happens at the beginning of the year, somebody has an outstanding game, they'll get a little bit of media attention. But baseball's become a game that is put on the back burner until, like I say, almost to the All-Star break. But here we are, dead of winter, and most sports media is discussing baseball. And I never think that's a bad thing. And we also now have a villain in baseball. The Yankees used to be the villain just because they spent so much damn money. Now they have the villain in the Houston Astros because they cheated. So everybody is going to tune in to see the Astros play this year. Are they going to be good? Did the cheating help? People are going to tune in to boo them. I think this is a really, really good thing for baseball in a roundabout way. Maybe even better than the steroid thing, because the steroid thing was a player-by-player basis. Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire, Roger Clemens, Sammy Sosa. It was just the player. This is an entire team that won the World Series. Really, really different type of situation there. And maybe, just maybe, this is what will get baseball to get its head out of its ass. Because I know baseball has a lot of money with local TV deals and stuff like that. But the thing that's killing baseball more than anything else is the lack of a salary cap. And maybe somebody could make the argument that the Houston Astros, somewhat of a small market team in comparison to the LAs and the New Yorks and the Chicagos of the world, maybe they needed to cheat to level the playing field. Bring in a salary cap, maybe nobody needs to cheat. And maybe the salary cap is how you bring all the fans back to the game, because now we're making it a level playing field for everybody to keep their stars. I'll be curious to see how this plays out over the next little while, but I do think the fact that we're talking about baseball in January is a good thing, even if we're talking about baseball with a negative story. On to our off story of the week. The story, when you see the headline, you just go, oh, for fuck's sakes. And this week's story, definitely an oh, for fuck's sakes. We've all heard of Gwyneth Paltrow and her stupid Goop podcast and her stupid Goop website and all that kind of stuff. You know, she's sold $15,000 dildos on her website, something called Sex Dust. Just really dumb stuff. Now she is selling a candle that is called This Smells Like My Vagina. Now, first off, I don't know exactly why anyone thought this was a good idea. Like, did we really need to know what Gwyneth Paltrow's vagina smells like? And if I light this thing up and it smells like vanilla, I call shenanigans. Her vagina does not smell like vanilla. But here's the other thing, too. It's sold out. And I can only think, here's the thing, I don't think it's women buying this. I think it's a lot of desperate guys that have a thing for Gwyneth Paltrow. She's not an unattractive woman. So there's guys sitting at home, looking at pictures of Gwyneth Paltrow, lighting a candle, and rubbing one out. Maybe with the candle wax on their dick. I don't know. But I think this is a terrible, terrible thing. And on top of that, I do have another question about this. When is this smell supposed to be? Is this fresh out of the shower, Gwyneth smell? Like, is that, is it her vagina right out of the shower? Or is this her vagina on a very hot, humid day when she's leaving the gym? Because those odors are going to be very, very different. In my little experience with the vagina, moisture plays a factor. And it can definitely affect the aroma, I would say. So I'm curious, what time of day and what are the situations that this vagina was smelled like? And I also wonder, who's the scientist that put the smell together? Did he have to formulate a smell it, and then she was sitting on a table spread eagle and he stuck his nose in her crotch and went, nope, don't have it yet, and went back to the drawing board? This whole thing has a lot of questions for me. The biggest of which being, why? Offs. On to the geek news of the week. There's a shit ton of that, too. It's been a good time to be a geek. We'll start with the Morbius trailer. Since that dropped, of course, one of Spider-Man's, I don't want to say lesser-known villains, but definitely not as popular as, say, the Green Goblin or Doc Ock or anything like that. Getting his own movie. Jared Leto is the star. Now, the last time Jared Leto played a villain, it was met with, let's say, mixed responses to Leto's Joker. I thought he was okay. I would have liked to have seen more of him. So I don't think it's fair to totally pass judgment on his Joker with the little bit that we saw in Suicide Squad. But I watched the trailer and I was like, okay, this looks good. The trailer doesn't give too much away as far as the essence of the film, because the film's supposed to be R-rated. The trailer isn't. The one thing I will say about the trailer that pissed me off, though, is why the fuck they gave away a huge surprise. Now, if you haven't watched the trailer yet, I'm about to ruin something, and they put it in the trailer, so I don't feel bad talking about this. The end of the trailer, you see Michael Keaton. Now, Michael Keaton, of course, was in Spider-Man Homecoming as the Vulture. And yes, we know Sony is trying to build kind of a Spider-Man cross-promoted universe with Venom and all these things. But why the fuck would you put that in the very first trailer for your movie? To me, that is a huge surprise that you hold back on. Maybe you throw it in the second or third trailer, or maybe you just leave it to shock the fuck out of people when they go opening weekend. Now that I know Michael Keaton is in the movie, I mean, I'm looking forward to see him. I'm a fan of his, but it also, I picture myself sitting in the theater watching Morbius and seeing that come up on screen, having no prior knowledge of it. I would have lost my shit. Now I'm going to be expecting it throughout the whole film, which somewhat ruins that surprise. So I don't know why Sony thought about doing that. But speaking of Sony and their Spider-Verse, they're being very ambitious with it. Reports are coming out that not only are they doing like Morbius and then the Venom movies are going to cross over and all these types of things, they want to somewhat replicate the success they had with the animated Into the Spider-Verse with a live action Into the Spider-Verse. They want to bring Tobey Maguire back. They want to bring Andrew Garfield back along with Tom Holland. So that's at least 3 Spider-Mans in the movie, and I would assume that if they did a Spider-Verse flick, we would at least get Miles Morales, if not Gwen Stacy as Spider-Gwen as well. So be very interesting to see if they can pull this off. They're being very, very ambitious, and one report said it's causing Marvel some problems because Marvel's trying to move forward with their storylines, and Sony's kind of fucking it up because as of right now, Spider-Man's still interconnected to the MCU. This is a lot of interconnected stuff there. And when you get too many interconnected pieces, sometimes it can get very, very messy. So hopefully they can keep this all pretty clean and neat. In some respects, I wouldn't mind seeing Spider-Man break off into his own universe. That might be the easiest way to manage things. And speaking of the MCU, Robert Downey Jr. is out there right now doing some pre-promotion for his Doolittle film. And of course, people are asking him about Iron Man. And while he's being cool on it, he has been teasing that Iron Man could return to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, he hasn't really gone into details on how or why this could happen for Iron Man. I have my own theories as to how or why Iron Man returns to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. How Robert Downey Jr. has 2 or 3 movies that bomb at the box office, and why he needs a payday and a hit film. So that's how Iron Man comes back to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So if you want, Iron Man back, don't go see Doolittle. That would be my first, little bit of advice there. And on top of that, it kind of looks shitty. I love Robert Downey Jr., but Doolittle, that trailer ain't doing a whole lot for me. Speaking of trailers, we did get the second and I believe final trailer for Birds of Prey. And I got to tell you, I'm getting pretty excited. It looks better and better the more I see of it. And for all you people that were freaking the fuck out, the Black Mask doesn't have his mask, watch the second trailer. You get to see Black Mask putting on his mask. And it looks great. It really, really does. I think this is going to be a trippy film. It's not going to be for everybody. It's R-rated. But based on the trailers, I'm very, very excited for the direction of Birds of Prey, and knowing that we're going to get more Harley coming with James Gunn's Suicide Squad movie is exciting as well. Another streaming service is on the way from HBO called HBO Max, and we knew that they were going to be pretty tied in with the DC universe with the Green Lantern show and a bunch of other projects announced under the DC banner. Now there's a new one that's going to be kind of interesting, especially if you're a fan of Aquaman. We do have a little bit of a wait between now and Aquaman 2. However, they have greenlit an animated series titled Aquaman King of Atlantis. Now, as of now, it's only a 3-part miniseries. It'll be executive produced by James Wan, the man behind the 2018 Aquaman movie. And each of the standalone episodes is going to have its own storyline following Aquaman as he kind of takes over being king of Atlantis. Apparently, according to the announcement, he's got a lot of catching up to do. Of course, he's got his 2 royal advisors, Vulko and Mira. They're going to be there with him. And then he's going to be dealing with surface dwellers, elder evils from beyond time, his own half-brother who still wants to overthrow him. This should be pretty interesting. And right now, only 3 episodes sounds kind of disappointing. I'm hoping this expands to a bit more, and it's going to be a nice bridge between Aquaman 1 and Aquaman 2. Now, a premiere date hasn't been set yet for Aquaman King of Atlantis, and they haven't announced who will be doing voices. But I can only imagine, since James Wan is involved and that this is tied right into the movies, Warner Brothers is going to do everything they can to get Jason Momoa, Amber Heard, all the cast to come and reprise their roles for the animated show. Should be really, really cool. And finally, I wanted to talk, since it's over now, I may delve into a little bit of spoilers here. Crisis on Infinite Earths wrapped up. The 5-part mega crossover between the Arrowverse shows. And I went on record as saying this was a more ambitious project than Avengers Endgame and what Marvel has done with their cinematic universe. Because when you watch Crisis on Infinite Earths, they tie in everything. And I mean everything. There's references to the 1989 Batman movie with Michael Keaton. There's references to Christopher Reeve's Superman movies, the old Batman 66 TV show, Birds of Prey TV show, everything referenced in this, kind of sequence of episodes, everything except the current run of DC films. Spoiler alert, they reference them. I'm going to talk about it in about 3, 2, 1. The Flash shows up. Not just any Flash, Ezra Miller. He has a scene with Grant Gustin's Flash, which is very, very cool, but it ties in the DC cinematic universe as well. This could be a way, because of the reset that happens with Crisis on Infinite Earths, that they reset the DCEU. Now people know there's a cinematic Flash out there. Maybe people that didn't get to see Justice League. And very, very well done. I will say maybe the last episode of Crisis on Infinite Earths didn't need to happen, although it was great to see the building at the end. I won't ruin that for you. But the first 4 definitely needed to happen and were exceptionally done, especially for TV shows. You know, it's easy to kind of skimp on budget for TV, but they didn't. They knocked this out of the park. If you haven't seen it yet, and you're a comic book fan, even if you're not a huge DC fan, even if you're not a huge fan of the Arrowverse TV shows, this is worth watching because it, like I say, ties everything in. It's storytelling done very, very well. And doing it over the 5 episodes, really 4, but over the 5, gave each character a little bit of time to breathe. You know, everybody kind of has their own moment, which is very, very nice. And there's great cameos, great performances. I am looking forward to them releasing Crisis on Infinite Earths as like a standalone digital download, Blu-ray. Hopefully they'll do a nice Blu-ray collector's edition of it because it's going to look great on the mantle. And it's the type of thing I would go back and watch over and over again because it was an excellent, excellent superhero team up. Only problem is I don't know where they go from here. In my head, they've done, Crisis on Infinite Earths. They've done Elseworlds. Maybe they do Final Crisis or something with Darkseid. That could be interesting. There are places they could go, but I just think some of those characters, especially Darkseid, is probably better suited for the big screen than the small screen. So be curious to see where the Arrowverse goes, especially now with no Arrow. It's going to be weird. But hopefully they keep it all together. But watch Crisis on Infinite Earths. Cannot say enough great things about it. That will do it for this week's edition of the show. I had so much to yammer on about, and I'm sure there was more that I could have talked about this week. Don't forget to follow us on social media. You can check us out on Instagram, The Scotty Mars Show. That's also where you can find us on Facebook. At Scotty Mars on Twitter, The Scotty Mars Show's on YouTube. If you check out the YouTube channel, like I said, there's a post-run video on there as well. Every now and then, if I go to see a movie, we do right in the car, in the parking lot movie reviews. So they're spoiler-free, usually 5-10 minute quick reviews without getting too deep into the plot and ruining it for you. So those are up as well, and they're going to keep coming. Thank you so much for the likes, the follows, the recommendations. It's definitely helping the podcast go and grow. We had some new listeners in South America. I'm always amazed when I see people just somewhere in the map download the show and start listening to it because I'm like, how the fuck did you find us? But it's because of you guys spreading the word. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And until we chat again, have a great week.